Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen are both visiting Western Balkan countries this week as part of their respective official visits. With the ongoing war in Ukraine and Russia trying hybrid warfare tactics to destabilize the region, the EU has to make sure it will keep the Western Balkan countries close to the Union rather than to Russia. Joining me now to discuss their respective trips and their possible consequences is Ivan Vejvoda, director at the Europe Project Institute for Human Sciences in Vienna. Good evening. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So Tusk and von der Leyen are definitely on a mission to the Western Balkan countries. Do you think that we could take this campaign as a counteroffensive which is meant to neutralize Russia's influence in the region?
Well, certainly this visit by both Prime Minister Tusk and President of Commission von der Leyen is extremely important. It continues to underscore that EU enlargement is at the center of the EU policies after the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine and after all the attempts of Russia in interfering. We saw most recently in the Moldovan election, and we have the very crucial elections in Georgia next Saturday. So yes, I think it is part of a key European Union strategy to bring these countries into the fold.
So we know that in January, Poland is going to take the EU Council presidency. Do you think that Tusk and von der Leyen are visiting the countries, and that visit could potentially bring some of these countries that could possibly enter the European Union closer to that goal?
Yes, I think that is the goal. Obviously, that the credibility of the European Union, which means credibility of the enlargement process, is at stake here. And if the European Union is not able to integrate these countries in the next 4 to 5 years, I think we're all in trouble, because this will then be an open playground for the Russias and Chinas of this world to show the weakness of the EU and of NATO, I would add. So the fact that Poland is taking the presidency of the EU, I think, is a crucial next 6 months to spur on all of these candidate countries. And I will remind you that all of these countries are now candidates except Kosovo and Georgia, that has a suspended candidacy. And so all of these actions, I think, are proof that the EU is serious about this, but it has to be proven by deeds, not only words.
And what would you say, because you mentioned those countries being the candidates with small exceptions, what are the biggest challenges of Western Balkan countries when it comes to EU accession?
Well, in the countries themselves, certainly we need to see more substantive and more rapid democratic reforms, which basically means rule of law, work on independence of judiciary and human rights, and of course fight against corruption and organized crime. There, the European Union has set down rules that are stricter than they were before, because if countries are slow or backslide, there will be a suspension of the process. And I think that's important given the fundamentality of the rule of law as a basic value of the European Union. On the European Union side, I think one of the key issues is to try and overcome unanimity voting on the 70-odd smaller steps that these countries need to make as they approach enlargement, and to work on what is called staged accession, namely bringing these countries to the table, if I can put it colloquially, even before they become full member states.
Obviously, the Moldovan and Georgian elections ring the alarm bells for the European Union, considering that Russia is willing to further fuel hybrid warfare in order to somewhat sway the former Soviet republics. But could the EU actually afford to have those Western Balkan countries be pushed in a direction of Russia instead of the European Union?
Well, certainly no. And I think that the Western Balkan countries, whatever the challenges they have in the process of accession, are firmly anchored in the West, whatever the rhetoric of politicians are, because all of them depend for their economic and social welfare on trade with the European Union. You take a country like Serbia, which is my country, about 65-70% of its trade is with the EU. So there is no doubt that they have to prove by their democratic reforms, meaning rule of law principally, that they are committed to this process beyond the rhetoric, which is very clear that their strategic goal is to join the European Union. And the fact that they are further away removed from Russia's borders than a Ukraine, a Moldova, and a Georgia also talks to you about the geopolitics or the geostrategy that we are looking at.
I would like to take a moment to look at the situation between Serbia and Kosovo. Obviously, Prime Minister Donald Tusk made his way to Serbia. We know that Mr. Vučić decided not to attend BRICS. He decided to stay behind in order to make that meeting happen. Serbia, even though it's a country, even though the Serbian government showcases a sort of a pro-Russian tendencies, is showing that it's willing to get closer to Europe. But the bone of contention between Kosovo and Serbia is that Serbia refuses to recognize Kosovo's status as an independent state, which in both cases is going to stop the EU further accession. What do you think the EU should do in order to facilitate better dynamics between Kosovo and Serbia in order for that to happen?
Well, just to go back for a moment to the issue of Serbia-Russia, Serbia is neither a small Russia nor is Vučić a small Putin. And I think this decision not to go to the BRICS clearly demonstrates it, coupled with the reception he will give to Prime Minister Tusk and President of the Commission von der Leyen, and obviously a number of other facts, like the fact that he participated in the Dubrovnik summit with President Vladimir Zelensky, where Serbia signed the joint statement condemning Russia's actions in Ukraine. On the Serbia-Kosovo, what is clearly the intention is what is called a full normalization of relations. No one, neither the United States nor the European Union, is asking for a full formal legal recognition of the independence of the Republic of Kosovo. Rather, it is asking for this normalization, which would be tantamount to a de facto recognition that Kosovo is a separate state.
And from your perspective, looking from the inside out, what do you think is the solution to the Kosovo-Serbia issue? Is there one? Is it a process that is going to take time, or there is a possible solution somewhere that's visible?
Well, the solution is a long time in the making, and it continues to be so. In fact, for those who follow, have seen that, in fact, Serbia's government and president have accepted a swath of issues where especially the Serbs in the north of Kosovo have accepted the Kosovo ID cards, car registration plates, driver's licenses. Kosovo in the north no more has the use of the Serbian dinar, but of the euro. Serbian banks have been closed. So what we're seeing is a gradual taking over of the sovereignty by Kosovo of that disputed northern area. And I think that the fact that the Serbian government is not reacting to this points in the direction of accepting the reality that is Kosovo today.
Thank you so much. Ivan Vejvoda, Europe Project Director, Institute for Human Sciences in Vienna. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so this would be all the latest news for now, ladies and gentlemen, here on World News Tonight. But please do not forget to stay tuned here on TVP World, as we'll have more news and features coming very soon. Good night.